This video, we're going to continue working with our lookup functions. There's really four of them that we're going to use. We did HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP, and then of course we have index and match. And in this example, we're going to do another XLOOKUP, and then we're going to do a index, so you get a little bit of practice with that. So just to give you a little overview of this worksheet. We're going to do a couple lookups, one for the class name and have they met the prerequisite. So over here on the data for class chosen, we have a choice, and then we have the class, and basically you just put an X and get rid of the, oops, I put the wrong word there, and you just delete the one that you don't want. Same thing with the prereqs, you put an X where you want and make sure you get rid of the other one. And yes, you could just use the whatever X, uppercase, lowercase. So in the first one, we're going to do this with an XLOOKUP. So we'll do equal XLOOKUP, and the lookup value is going to basically be X. We don't actually have a cell to find that in because X is what we're going to use. And again, it can be upper or lowercase, doesn't really matter. And then the lookup array is going to be this data here. So it's going to be A11 through A17. I have seen some videos where they actually include the title of that particular field, but I don't do that. Then we'll hit comma, and now, oops, I hit pause and then I got back. There we go. So now we want to know the return array. Well, once it finds what we're looking for, we'll select that, and then we'll hit comma. For either of those two arrays, we don't need to worry about absolute because we're not copying this down, so we're okay. And then the if not found, we'll put a message there. We'll just type no class selected, and then comma. And the match mode, again, we want it to be exact. So as long as you hit X, you shouldn't have a problem. And then we will close that. So I put an X by the A2232. That works great. Now here's something interesting. If I put an X down here at the bottom, you will notice it doesn't clear. Let me get that back up here. Because once Excel finds a match, it stops. So we already have one here. So probably the best thing to do would be to instruct people using this to first delete any entries here and then put an X where you want it. If I do two X's, you'll see I get the no class selected. Now I have this set for center. Let me change that to left align. So it needs to be exact. There we go. All right, so the second one is going to use the index and the match. And when we look at an index, so we use the function index. I'm just writing text here. We're going to have the array, and that will be, think of that as the return array, because the index is what shows the results of the lookup, which will be match. And then we'll have a row number, and then optionally, oops, brackets, a column number. Now, this row number or column number can come from a match that does the lookup. It could come from an XLOOKUP or a VLOOKUP if there's values there, if we're just returning a row or a number. It can also be if we had column numbers, and we'll do a little bit of example later at the end with a special index. That'll be a separate video. So that's the index. So if we look at, so if we look at the equal match, it has three arguments as well, one of which is optional. The first is the lookup array. I'm sorry, lookup value. Oops. The second is the lookup array. So think XLOOKUP. And then the optional is match type. So we'll just get those in here, and then we close it. So the lookup array, let me spell that right, will be the value that I'm going to be looking up. And in this instance, it's going to be X, so we'll just type in an X. And then where do I find it? And then we'll provide a match type, and then we'll be set. So first thing to do, let's just do an equal match just to see what it looks like. So the lookup value, we're just going to type in X. The lookup array is going to be just these two cells. In the past, when students have done these, they have actually selected both column D and column E, and that's not correct. You only need one column. The index will retrieve that column. And so we have options for less than, exact match, or greater than. Remember, XN should be less than. That'd be sort of a round down. And a greater than would be a round up. So if you had think of these as approximate. So we are going to do exact, and then we will close that. And that just gives us 2. So if I change this, like we did before, we want to get rid of that, and then put in an X, and you see that it retrieves either row 1 or row 2, depending on what you're working with. Now, I recommend using the setting up your function in parts just as a way to check to see if there's an error anywhere. So now that's the match. We only had two to really choose from. So now let's just add the index. The index, you'll remember, is what displays the results from the match. Think of the match as your lookup function, and the index as the display function. So right now we want to know the array. This is the return array, so that will be E11 through E12, comma. And then it's looking for the row number, which we did with the match. So all I have to do is put my cursor at the end, close my parenthesis, and hit enter. So we should see yes. So now if I get rid of this, we'll get an error. That's really saying there's no value. So then I'll come over here to no, and I'll give it a value. And then the last thing we can do is do the if error. So that if we have no values here, which obviously you probably, if this is brand new, you'd want to clear everything. So then you're going to get a bunch of NAs. So here we're just going to, between the equal sign and the function, we're going to type in if error. And the first part will be basically our index and our match, which we just tested. We'll put our cursor at the end. We hit comma. And then what do I want to display? This is your message. I'm just going to display a blank, so we're just going to do double quotes. You don't want to do a double quote space double quote. It's not necessary. It's extra material. And then we'll hit enter. So now I can go back here and center it. And so if I get rid of the X here, you'll see it just leaves a blank. Now obviously you could have put in no class selected, but this is really going to do that. So let's choose S3914, and then we'll come over here and we'll choose no, the prereq has not been made. So we'll just hit X here, and then you'll see that you can display the values. So that's kind of comparing XLOOKUP and index. Again, if I just make these a little bigger so you can see them better. Notice again, the index is what does the displaying, the matching does the lookup. And in some instances, we'll have an example when we do the special index on the next video, where we're going to actually just use a value that's already displayed. So we won't even need to use the match. So the match actually helps fill in the row and or column, but you could have other items there. It might be a lookup that looks something else up. Okay, so that is working with a basic index with some examples of XLOOKUP.